present what you found to be your barriers. Okay, and we'll read them all so you can see them, all right? And then we're going to brainstorm some solutions to those barriers, all right? It'll be a real quick and dirty brainstorm, but it'll get you started, all right? Okay. So, either you or Dale can present.
All right, our task was to move from our current organizational structure to the hybrid organizational structure that you've been handed. I think we've got about 6 or 7 barriers up here. The first one is pretty obvious. It's natural resistance to change. Our second prong is new procedures, new processes, and there's a natural tendency to not want to do that. The other one is it's all kind of the same thing, but just different ways of saying it. New routines, new people, new expectations. The fourth is just personality conflicts, personality barriers. Then we get a little bit more interesting in some of our descriptions, overcoming a lack of trust in the new system. A lot of times when you have a new system, people got to believe in it, people got to buy into it, all that kind of stuff. That leads into our next one, which is leadership buy-in. If the system's not going to be any good if the leadership doesn't buy into it. The last one is, this is kind of funny, the ability to prove, there are 2. The ability to prove that it works. You have to show that the system is going to work. So the system needs to be able to address the benefits of the old system and also address whatever negatives are associated with the old system. And the last one's kind of funny, but overcoming sabotage. So overcoming, when you have a new system or a new process, the first way of attacking it is just to attack it frontally, directly. It's not going to work. Well, if someone proves that it works, then you try to ensure that it doesn't work. So you have to be able to overcome that level of sabotage. That's it. Great.
Thank you, man. Yeah. Are there any additions to that list? Anything that people would like to say in addition to the barriers list? Natural resistance to change, new procedures and new processes, new routines, new people and new expectations, personality conflicts, overcoming lack of trust in the new system, leadership and buy-in, and the ability to prove that it works, and overcoming sabotage. Moving from the existing organizational structure to a new hybrid organizational structure. What are some of the other barriers that you might think about? Anybody? Just brainstorming. Doesn't have to be right. Just brainstorm.
Getting comfortable with the team approach. We're not used to doing that.
Okay. So, the team approach. Okay, go ahead. Any others? Okay, so let's do a brainstorm on the other side. How do we overcome these things?
I don't know, because we got some of those right now. We haven't overcome them yet, so it's a good question.
All right, let's think about it.
Good question.
One of the recommendations was to develop a change management strategy. So one of the things that you need is a strategy, right, for overcoming these barriers, for communication, and involvement.
Participation.
Yes?
Participation.
Participation. Yep. Okay, go ahead. Trust. Okay. What else?
I think leadership sticking with the plan.
Okay.
It's going to buy in, establish that we're going to do something. And the leadership change the plan mainstream, and that causes
Okay. Go ahead.
downward fall from the other.
Okay, Carol?
Well, can I say something, even though I'm the consultant here, but, you know, I'm also was part of here before, so, and since you made me work on a task
Yes,
team, so
absolutely.
I think maybe, okay. Just want to make that, I think that there has to be the understanding that, it's never gonna be 100% buy-in. So how do we think about compromises or building a comfort margin for those who are never, you know, gonna buy in completely, but they're gonna have to work with it if they're gonna stay. So how do we make some compromises to accomplish what we wanna do, but to build a comfort margin?
Okay. Others?
Some rules for behavior
Okay. Okay.
during the process, you know, basically what's acceptable and what's not acceptable as we make these changes, and calling people on the carpet when they do those things that are behaviorally that are not acceptable to the process of the team or to our concept what we're trying to.
That's great. Okay, so essentially some performance management in the change process, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Some accountability.
Accountability. Great. Anything else? All right. So all of these are really based on people, personalities, interaction, resistance to change, etc. Are there any other elements that are not associated with a person's? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think how do you, I think addressing how the, aligning the new system with your ongoing and current goals. Because kind of what I like in this too, I've been thinking about this in a couple different ways. I don't know why Big Brother was on my mind, but you know, you get all these folks that now they got to live in a house together, and you know, they got to live in a house together, so they're trying to accomplish something. You got to eat, you got to clean, you got to, you know, cook, and everybody's got a different way of doing that. And it's not, and I think Carol said the best, it's never going to be a perfect situation, because I guess the only perfect situation is if you got total control over it. But you're not going to. So what's a livable situation that you still can align up to have exceptional results as it relates to your goal? Because I think that everybody on the team would want to have an exceptional measurement as they try to reach the objectives of the team. So I think when you start talking about what's the natural comfort level, what's all that kind of stuff, I think if we can start off by saying this, everybody on the team want to be exceptional. I mean, I don't think nobody's going to say no to that. Okay? And then you start thinking about it like that, and you say, well, how do we get there? Now, there might be 17 different ways to get there, but, you know, obviously we put a lot of research into this, or we put a lot of research into looking at what is the best optimum system given our dynamics, training, budgets, the board in which we work in, all that kind of stuff. And then from there, as you go with this team, I think maybe with this team, it's better to work from the goal, from where everybody wants to be in terms of the team performance down. Because in order to have that exceptional level of performance, there are going to be personalities that have to gel. There are going to have to be buy-in in new systems. There's going to have to be buy-in in new expectations, especially in a system that historically has been very siloed.
Okay. One of the things I wanted to pick up on what you said, Terrence, was around alignment with current goals. And typically in every organization that goes through a change of the magnitude that we're talking about, you have your current production, numbers of houses, numbers of people served, etc. And when you go into a change of this magnitude, that ability to maintain that current level of production will drop. And it has to. Why? It's the learning curve. Exactly. So it'll drop, it'll bottom out, it'll go back, and then it should go up, right?
Should excel what we
It
work
should
for.
excel. So, when you reach this point, when you reach these points in here, you can't freak out on people, right? You have to have the expectation that as we go through this process, we know that production's gonna dip a little bit, but on the other side of that, and maybe you say, okay, this is only gonna be, I don't know, 60 days, whatever it is. We have an expectation that there's gonna be a change in production, and that's gonna be okay. So you can stop stressing out about it. We're changing from one way to another. You know that there's gonna be some process for training, for the new system to get up and running, et cetera. And you might even wanna phase it. You know, okay, so we do the new system first, we do some training, then we go into the new structure, we do some training, we do the new procedures or what have you. So, and you phase it so that everything doesn't have to happen
In one time.
at one time, right? Okay. So what's recommendation number 2? Yep.
We came up with resistance to new things. I think that's gonna be pretty much covered in all of the recommendations. Also, training of staff with varying levels of computer skills and their comfort levels. Availability of staff to run parallel systems, because with new technology, you've got the old and you've got the new. And so there's gonna be some times in overlapping that obviously we can put the new things in, but obviously we're gonna have to keep the old things going until we can get it converted over. And then also the amount of time for meetings, discussions, processing, data entry, availability. All of these things will be required, and understanding and realizing that staff is already stretched pretty thin. But that's this kind of goes back now, although we captured it here, but it goes back to your conversation and your statement that you just made, Charles, of the time period of saying, okay, this is our high point, we're going, the production is not going to be as, is not gonna be realized.
At the same level.
At the same level, correct.
Okay. Great. Any additions? So we're talking about development of the standard technology. These are the barriers that they came up with. Resistance to training of staff for levels of comfortability with computers, parallel systems, and time. So what are some of the levers or solutions to that?
How about some cross-training, because you might
Okay,
have to
cross-training.
already know how to do it, and cross-training on the staff.
Okay, what else? How do we overcome these barriers?
Training.
Yeah.
Making sure training is available.
And the type, give the right type of training
And it might also be understanding that everybody learns in different methods. You may
So
have
considering
to,
learning styles.
right, the learning styles, you may have to determine, not everyone is as sophisticated or as proficient or some, as everyone else. So being able to have a training that's based on those individuals' abilities and skills, and then you may have a hierarchy one that where you don't have to, what some of us may call basic, may not be basic for others. So being able to accommodate that, so that individuals won't be bobbleheads in a training workshop or classroom style, but actually glean something hands-on would be needed.
Okay.
And making sure that everyone is moving at the same pace.
Others?
I guess you have to realize that anything that you're trying to implement and have under a training aspect should be conducted at a third grade level,
Okay.
masters.
So, training level.
A little
Okay.
more comfortable with it.
So
Even
really,
if
really,
it's-
you're talking about like reading level, that kind of thing, right? Right, okay. Yes.
And I think that goes back to learning styles.
It does. They're
Type,
connected.
okay,
Yeah.
because
Yeah, they're very connected. Okay. Anything else? So, what about planning? Doing an implementation plan that is well thought out and well time-framed and resourced. Should I put that up?
Yeah,
Correct.
Yeah.
well vetted for sure.
Mhm. Okay.
and communicate it, because you wanna make sure that everyone knows that it's coming, understands, you know, what's happening, so that, you know, it's not the deer in the headlights.
And in the same way that you have different learning styles, you should use multiple modes of communication, because people don't always get it just because you say it
I
once.
think that's a good one.
Okay. Any others? Recommendation 3.
Okay, recommendation 3 was dealing with the development of performance management system. It put down, employees see it as a repeat of the past. Anyone that has been here at least 10 years know that we have went through this painful cycle of performance management system. We also need to have some rewards and recognition tied to it. Compensation, which would be the most difficult part. And need to set expectations of what the performance measurement is going to be actually measuring. And it needs to be a team effort, because we have established that we have a team set up. So there needs to be a team effort, not individually based. So if the team fail, everybody fails. So you need to understand that concept.
Okay. Any additions to that? Yes.
As far as the awards and recognition, and I think that's what type of award. I see that, I know that compensation is on there, but if we don't have the ability to do that, not because we may not have the budget, but we have the ability because, you know, we act as one unit within this government, what else is there? Or so that's a barrier, in my opinion, identifying what type of awards would be available.
I think the small things of certificates, Sean,
You want to put that on the side?
certificates, little gift cards to the brick. It's just the person being recognized that they set goals and they met the goals. Rather than we set goals, we met the goals, and that's the end of it. They need to know it's something, you set the goals and it's performance measured. So if you meet them, now you see that I'm going to receive, as they're saying something, receiving something for what you set as the expectations, and now you met them. But just to set a goal, they meet the goal and it goes on the shelf, and the employees doesn't have any reason to buy into being measured. You need to know that I need to do 5 contracts. Did you meet that goal in a certain period of time? So that's why it's a team effort, and that team has to actually get together, work together, and that's what we come into
Okay.
that team building and communication.
Okay. So the barriers, employees see it as a repeat of the past. Rewards and recognition may be a barrier, compensation, setting expectation, And team efforts not individually based. Okay? The team fails, everybody fails. Are there any additional ones? As far as barriers to implementing performance management and measurement?
I mean, I think showing, yeah, a barrier is just showing people not thinking it's objective and fair.
Subjective?
No, yeah, people thinking that it is subjective and not fair. That the system could not be fair. Because, you know, you like this person, you don't like this person. So the person that you like got the, you know, got a better.
So you're talking about perception.
Perception, yeah.
And going back to what Deidre said, we're gonna be governed by whatever the city of Jacksonville rules and regulations are as far as, that's gonna be a barrier as far as where we need to go.
As far as compensation is concerned.
Because because I don't think that for when you're trying to impart change and or have a reward system, that's not gonna, a certificate and a recognition is not going to be enough. Because some folks have that already, and when they, you know, I know they've been brought out and shown, but what they're wanting is either some type of upward movement, promotion.
Upward mobility?
Yeah, upward mobility, some type of promotion, and or something substantial, some type of, you know, gift card or something that if you can't compensate, I'm serious, this is what.
So on the
Mary-
solutions side, we're talking about creating or creatively improving the reward system. So that includes things like certificates, recognition, time off, you know, anything that you can do within the confines of the organization, even within the confines of the team. I mean, maybe the team meets its, you know, quarterly goal and then goes to pizza or dinner or something. I don't know. You know, you come up with those things.
Who's gonna pay?
It is, right, and it falls
On the
on
manager to pay for the pizza or to
You
buy
know,
a gift certificate.
that's why I say creative.
I know, I'm just saying, that's always the thing that comes up, who's gonna bankroll this out
Right.
there, you know?
Yeah, because one of the recommendations was maybe lunch with the chief or the director, so that they will pay.
Yeah. No, we did, when White was here, I was telling them they were talking, I was kind of talking about conversation. I don't know anything about that, but she used to put everybody's name in the thing and pull her name and go out and staff and just go, yeah. Lunch with the director is what it was called.
Okay. So those are some of the things that can be done for overcoming this barrier of perception, rewards and recognition, compensation, and setting expectations, etc.
I think one of the key things too in performance management, folks who have been through the performance management, is the amount of time that it takes to evaluate all the data and what have you. So I think
So that's a barrier.
That's a barrier, the time.
Yeah, because they turn colors on the manager's screen. All of our evaluations are red for our team because we don't have the time to actually, you know, go through.
2011, I think.
I think it's just not consistent throughout the city. I think that some departments are really serious about performance measurements and they do them. Some departments, kind of do them. Some departments don't do them at all.
Right.
So just the expectation from the mayor and that level of what they want, and HR for what they want when it comes to evaluations is not necessary.
Yeah, completely revamped.
So so there's two levels of
Right.
measurement then.
Housing.
There's housing and there's the team within housing, right? And then there's the city up on top.
Right.
So you got to figure out how to incorporate all of those things into.
Turn camera on yourself.
No, thank you.
Yes.
It's recently come down from the mayor's office to all the directors that he wants the departments to get their performance management evaluations up to date by the end of May.
Who?
Yeah, they were the ones who
Who
told us
is
to stop
what?
doing it.
Nobody told us
Yeah.
that.
Elaine, I believe Elaine heard it in staff meeting, and so the next time she meets with you guys, she would pass that on if she feels it's feasible.
So they told us 2 years ago to stop doing it.
Stop doing it. Now
Well-
we're
So now we have to go back in time?
Well, I don't know whether they're gonna cause it to move forward to the current,
I
and
mean,
skip
if they
those,
did
or,
that,
or,
I mean-
or not. That, I don't have information on that, that'll be coming down, but I just wanted you to know that
Okay,
there
so we
is a
got-
move to get that going
Okay,
again.
let's not get stuck there, we gotta move on, 'cause we need to be
Yeah.
finished by a certain time.
So what, I
got
guess
6
on
minutes.
that performance management, we're just thinking more on the basis of, department, not city to city, not gonna compensate, if that doesn't exist, but just on a department level, that the people are being recognized, they're setting goals and they need to meet them.
Right.
I mean, just like, we had performance management years ago, and once they say we wasn't getting anything compensated, it didn't tie back to the raise or anything, it disappeared in some departments.
Right.
But if you were to walk over to a county, they're still counting how many check requests they do on a daily basis, weekly basis, how many JEs are done. So everything still can happen on department level, theirs didn't go away.
Right.
Well, ours went away, so now you're saying, why are we not meeting the contract deadline? Well, all the contracts are not out by November 1st because it didn't tie back to me getting a raise, so we could just
Okay,
drag along.
okay. Let's do number 4.
I am not. Always pushing me. So funny, man. You can
Yes.
So, me and LaCree had developed and institute a training program, and our barriers were time, because with everybody's, projects and all that, how you gonna get everybody together on the same schedule to, put them in classes. Another one was lab space, especially when it came to computers or technology, because we don't have laptops for everybody, where we're gonna put them, where we can have a hands-on training session, how we're gonna organize that. Just like everybody else, people's attitudes and how they're gonna react to it. The types and format of training, internal and external, how we're gonna manage that, how we're gonna manage getting people in for training or sending them out for training. And with that comes cost and finance, how we're gonna finance it, because, training was cut out of the budget, so how we're gonna manage that.
Okay. Great. Any additions? Brainstorm solutions real quick.
You were up there talking about the times, the set time for the training. I just thought it might be, to phase that as well. I was talking about phasing the change, phase the training.
Okay.
And maybe do some kind of rotation on the trainings as well, so maybe if we do one at the beginning of the month, we can do that same training then at the end of the month, or something like that, so we do it twice, so the staff people can't make this, so they can make that one, but they have to make at least one of them, during the month, something like that.
Okay. Any others?
We used to implement years ago, bag lunch training, where we do it on the lunch break.
Brown bag.
Brown,
Okay.
That's what we do with a lot of our staff.
Oh, okay.
Mostly because there are only 15 of us, or 18 of us in our headquarters, and we're 62 employees, but, it's just a good use of time. We all kind of mutually having lunch around our respective tables and.
Okay. Others?
As far as the lab space, I was just thinking maybe we could work something out with, across the street with the training, since they're not using their labs anymore.
Who? With who?
They
Training.
have computer rooms over
Yeah.
there.
And they still have to do something and everything.
So we're
Was that a
talking about-
city training department?
Yes, with HR, they have a whole training. Used to be a whole series, right, used to be a whole series of training that they used to conduct, but they don't even do that anymore.
Okay.
Which were mandatory.
Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
they
So,
had
there you
to
go.
attend, yeah.
Anything else? Number
I
5.
just think make them mandatory.
Mandatory.
Make mandatory?
24 hours a year.
Make them mandatory that everybody gets cross-trained so many sessions or so many, something like that.
We're gonna go back to start business performance management at the end of it. You wanna do it?
Okay. Number 5. Yeah. Feel like you're man.
This is weird, Rob.
Still on our team, Carol. That's what it is.
Sterling.
So this is the list that Elaine and I worked out, but mostly Elaine. So when we think about recommendation 5, it goes back to a lot, I mean, really, Laura, this should have been your discussion, because it ties really into what your new system, CTM. But currently, right now, that, a barrier is timely payment processing to stakeholders, subrecipients, contractors. Let me skip over this one. Accountability to management affects the ability to meet federal requirements like expenditure deadlines and things like that. And that, as you were saying earlier, is too much staff time spent on multiple entries of same data by multiple people into multiple systems. Okay, and in each one of these, somehow or another, kind of ties back to a barrier not having an effective strategic plan, not the consolidated plan, but your internal sort of strategic
How
plan.
do we deliver this kind of
Right.
stuff?
Mhm.
Consolidated plan.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, solutions,
Training.
training, CM,
Planning.
Planning.
Yes.
planning.
Yeah,
Oh,
additional
God.
staff would be nice. Rest of them.
Yeah.
Still the vacancies we have, that's, I mean, at this point, our streets all over dead if we were actually fully staffed.
Right.
Okay.
From the shock.
What else? Well, developing a strategic plan, huh? Because there's not one here currently, right?
And that's basically, I guess, what you're saying, when you said one of your recommendations, we develop a method of doing these things, so.
Okay,
Develop a timetable as well.
Oh, absolutely.
When are we gonna report
Measure
out?
it so it gets
When
done.
are we gonna, discuss, integrating our gas with the other system? When are we going to?
Let's stop talking about it, think about it.
Yes, let's set some dates and some time frames of when we're gonna get it done.
That's
nothing
fine.
like a good date, right?
Get her done. I think that would, be a barrier and a solution to all of the recommendations. Stop talking about it. Well, that's,
Right.
I think that's what we've all individually complained about a lot lately, is we're tired of sitting around talking about doing it, we really just wanna do it.
But find the time to do it all, is our big issue, just really strategic
Sitting around
planning.
talking about it. See, we would
You
think.
said and complain about it,
Meeting that we had on the roof,
complain about not having enough time to do it, that could be a meeting to get it done, right?
Right. Okay, and last but not least was recommendation 6, which Hannah and I worked on. This is still kind of weird, but we thought time to complete a change management system, whether or not there was expertise in change management methodology and organization and how you would gain that expertise. And then basically just identifying the changes in the process that are required, the changes in the structure that are required, and communicating that to people, as well as developing a framework to engage stakeholders outside the organization as well as in, and then managing the process. So that means that you have to have someone who is over the process, who is measuring when the time frames that you just talked about for, putting certain actions in place. Who's managing that process? Who's over the change management process? When do you decide that it's done, right? When do you decide that we need to change it and tailor it in some kind of way? So someone has to be in charge of that. Any additions? to our brainstorm? Any additions,
Oh,
solutions?
just set the time up to do it, like they just said. Talk about
Just
being
do
on
it.
Like Nike said, right there.
And I was getting ready to say, we're not,
Just do it.
Okay. So you also said time schedule.
And I definitely think we need somebody to be over the change management, like you're saying, with the expertise, an
Right.
assigned person, facilitator, somebody with expertise in change, expertise in guidance, expertise in managing difficult people or difficult concepts about change.
Right.
Can that be helpful?
Okay. All right. So there you have it. So we looked at barriers. We scratched the surface with regard to barriers and solutions, but at least we started thinking about the process, right? So, if, I would like Terrence and Elaine to have, they're right here. So we can close out, and what we should probably do is think about what will you do with regard to the recommendation and who will you do?
Sorry.
It's okay. We're wrapping up. We've gone through all of the recommendations. We have flip charted some of the barriers to some of the recommendations, as well as looked at some brainstorm some solutions. We recognize that we basically just scratched the surface as far as identifying barriers and brainstorming solutions. One thing I would encourage you to do is to make some decisions about what's the next step. Whether or not there are recommendations that you will embrace and recommendations that you will put off, and what time frame you will do within which you will do that, so it doesn't remain static or stop, but that you push your change process forward.
Charles, in a perfect world, if we had the staff, for example, that you would be recommending that we get in order to get to our end, in that perfect world, how long would you expect us to be able to make some turn, even a 90-degree turn towards your recommendations? Would you see that being a year process?
When you say some term, that, well, let me start by saying, I think that this is not a short-term process. Getting to where you have a completely new organization structure, teams in place, procedures in place, systems and processes, could take a year and a half, 2 years. Short term, you can take some of the recommendations and start putting them in place.
Sort of like a phased.
You can do a phased process. Start implementation meetings where you take some of these things and drill down on them. I mean, we just did very high level barriers and solution brainstorm, but drilling down on those, putting some time frames to what you decide you want to do, and assigning responsibilities to folks who should carry those tasks out. One of the things that we just talked about before you came in the door was the necessity to have some good change management expertise to help you to walk through that process. It's difficult to do, and I think that most organizations, if they don't have resident change management, some people have in their HR departments some change management people who know how to go in and make that happen. So you might take a look and see if that expertise resides in HR. But I think that the implementation process needs to be managed and planned and managed well if you're going to come out with a good product.
Yeah, just one additional comment. As I look at this, I haven't spent as much time on it as I would like, because of the projects that's been out. It seems like most of the new organizational dynamic centers on taking our old system, which was a work area, what I would call a work area, a program system, where was CDBG, home initiative, or how, taking the description of the work and changing that system into based on functionality. So there's a group that's planning, there's a group that's handling contracts, and sort of integrating the programs within those operational functions. It seems like that's what you've done here. Is that accurate?
That's it.
Okay. What are the, I guess I'm gonna come back on a challenge question with you. What are I wasn't thinking about this when you asked the question earlier, but I think it lends itself to some of the natural barriers that go along with change. But in this case, we'd be changing, all of our methodologies for, I guess, I don't know how long we've been set up this way in this department, but what are some of the buy-in recommendations you would make, not only to this group who would have to implement it, but how we're perceived, our client base is the developer, client, city council, mayor, senior leadership. How would you recommend we sell a change like this, going from being program structured to operational function structure? How do we sell that? Because in your eyes, because I tell you, a council member's gonna look, he knows to call Daryl for housing rehab. He knows to call Creed for CDBG. And, that's gonna take a while to implement that change. You guys get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So what do you think about that? So my question is, how do we change how do we attack our clients' expectations with this organizational change, with the proposed organizational change?
I think that the clients are probably less, and I say probably less concerned about whether it's CDBG, home, ESG, or HOPWA, or whatever program source it is, as much as they are concerned with the outcome, their ability to get money, their ability to be assured that the project is moving expeditiously and that they're getting the appropriate quality. From a communication standpoint, one of the things, the way that I started the report out was to reference what I read about the mayor's expectation that efficiency and effectiveness of departments can be achieved through organizational structure changes, consolidating functions, and doing these types of things. So there is a concept already at the executive department that there are ways to make city services more effective for constituents. One of the things that you need to do in terms of identifying how you sell it is to identify the communications that have the communications strategy, communications history that you have with those constituents. So part of it's political, part of it is being able to show data that indicates that moving from a CDBG, home, ESG, HOPWA functional organization structure to one that is operational, where it's standardized, you have new technologies, you're therefore able to increase your productivity, increase your quality, and increase your services to constituents, especially in a constrained budget, a budgetary environment. So, you know, you have to identify where those communication points are, where those leverages are with the various constituencies. So, to communicate one, you might communicate one lever with council and another lever with the developer because they have different expectations or desires. You know, even though it's the same, you know, the same change, one person might get a better, get more from one aspect of the change than another might.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
It does. It does.
All right. Elaine, did you have any
I don't have any other questions.
wrap-ups? Yes.
Looking at what we went through today in this exercise, like you said, we just scratched the surface, and there's so much more we need to conversate about and figure out through the process. I think that as a SMT,
As what?
SMT, senior management
Oh,
team,
senior management.
as a SMT, throughout this process that we're gonna have to help the staff manage that change is coming. Until we get the change together, until we fully know what it is, I think that we shouldn't put it out until we have a clear concept of what we're doing, how we're gonna do it, how we think it's gonna work within the parameters of what you've given us. Because even looking at the positions that we have set up for the teams and house person work across the top, we know we don't have the staff for that. So we know we have to look at that and make some adjustments to it, and possibly make some adjustments to the cross flow of the team and expertise and who is where, how they fit in, what where they better would fit in, you know, that kind of thing. And I just think until we get a grasp on that, we should hold on to it, and get it together.
I agree.
You know, because
I don't know, I take maybe a little different position on that. I'm not contrary to what you're saying. I think though that the team is in expectation that something will be said to them. There will be the delivery of some information based on your meeting with them early on, and I think that when you met with them those many months ago that you came on board, it set the expectation that they were going to somehow be engaged in some process based on your having, as an outcome of your having been here. So we need to say something. I think we need to reconvene the staff and talk to them about the general parameters of this project without talking about the organizational piece, just so that they are kept as much in the loop as possible and start to prepare themselves emotionally for some change, because they're already concerned about rumors, for example, in city government as a whole, that there is something else brewing, and I think it's just too much for them to be so isolated from real factual information.
Right.
The other thing is, I think that as soon as we can start to let them know that something is gonna happen, the earlier we start to get some kind of commitment, even if it's an emotional commitment to it. And I think that we as a senior management team are going to have to, I think the challenge for us is as great as it is for them to emotionally center ourselves and be ready for a commitment to engage this new process.
Right.
So I think it's a challenge for us as a senior management team, but I think it's also gonna be a challenge for the team, and I think we need to all start wrapping our heads around it relatively at the same time.
Right.
And I want to, as the chief of the team, to say, because I'm sure this is probably the last visit for you, Charles. I want to say thank you for the time that you have spent with us. From the beginning until now, it's been interesting for me to try and imagine even what was going to come out of this. I'm sorry, like Terrence said, I've been in and out so much today and yesterday. That notwithstanding, I know that you have put so much into this that's going to be beneficial to us. As a chief, I'm totally committed to trying to experiment with these recommendations, the whole universe of the recommendations. I think that we can do this. I think that while I missed the barriers portion of this meeting today,
We captured it for you.
yeah, we can take a look at that, because I think, you know, that there are a number of barriers that we're gonna have to face, obviously. But I think that we're still up to the challenge. We have the best and the brightest team here, and all it takes, I think, for us to do is center ourselves around the commitment to make it happen. We can do that. And this will be one of the jurisdictions that you're gonna be really proud of.
Already in.
Right.
You know, just going through this type of process is not normal. You don't find it in a lot of places where people are engaged in saying, look, we need to look at ourselves in a different way. Typically in community development, we're focused on the technical aspects of, well, what does the regulation say about CDBG, what does the regulation say about homework, ESP, whatever it is. But in terms of systems, in terms of an organization as a whole, you know, it's rare in the public space that you find folks that understand and are willing to step up to the plate in that way. You know, I've enjoyed my time here and met a lot of great friends, and you know, if you need something quick, just give me a holler.
Thank you, guys.
And thank you, Hannah.